Your Excellency, President Musharraf, friends, it gives me great pleasure and it's a privilege to welcome you, Mr. President, again back to the Davos family. We still retain fond memories of your visit in Davos 2 years ago. Much has changed during those 2 last years for the Asian region in general and Pakistan in particular. Pakistan's economy has enjoyed impressive economic growth, and this has to be seen in the context of a very difficult environment, especially if I look at your achievement last year with the second highest growth after China in Asia and a growth rate of 8.4%. Your government's leadership has laid the foundations through a number of wide-ranging economic reforms, and all of these reforms bode well for the sustained growth of the economy also in the future. But the last 2 years were not without upheavals. And I may, Mr. President, just refer to the discussion which we had a moment ago when you told me sometimes if you look at your country and if you look also at the earthquake, you would pray for not having all those problems at the same time. But I think you have mastered very well, despite all those challenges, to keep your country on track. We also were very pleased to have been able to send a delegation of our young global leaders to the regions in your country which were devastated by the earthquake. They came back and they want to engage you, the world community, and particularly their own group, the young global leaders, in continuous efforts to maintain an interest and the support of the world for this tragedy which has hit your country. Mr. President, we recommend you for your leadership in striving for a better quality of life for your country's citizens, for your leadership in initiating political reforms and countering, and this is very crucial for all of us, religious extremism. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of Pakistan, President Musharraf.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. Klaus Schwab, the Executive Chairman of World Economic Forum, and all the distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, it's a unique privilege for me to be here and to be addressing such an august gathering for the second time. I was here in 2004 and did address such a gathering then. I feel this is a forum which is so unique that Pakistan ought to be here to project whatever we are doing as a success story and to draw attention to itself and maybe gain economically and politically from it. So it's indeed my unique privilege to be here. The subject given to me is leadership in the wake of natural disaster. The basic ingredient of a leader, I personally feel, is that he should never panic, should never get in tension, whatever the problems, whatever the circumstances. This is the basic ingredient of leadership in all circumstances, facing any disaster, facing any challenge. But however, I would confine myself to leadership in the wake of natural disasters. The first comment I would like to make is that no nation in the world, I think, and no leader in the world can be expected to be fully prepared to meet major natural disasters. And no leader can be expected to act spontaneously to meet such a challenge. Having said that, I would straight come to some points on the responsibility of a leader in the wake of natural disaster, a major natural disaster. Firstly, he must take stock of the situation, assess the situation, assess the damage very calmly, very confidently, and chart a course of action for himself without getting into panic, without getting under tension. The second point I want to make, responsibility of the leader, is to create an implementation organization. Thirdly, select the right leaders to run that implementation organization. Fourthly, formulate a strategy, an overarching strategy for implementing or for meeting the challenge of that disaster. Then comes the important aspect of generating and placing adequate resources at the disposal of the organizations that have been set to meet this challenge. And finally, monitor the effects that are being achieved towards the strategy that has been enunciated. I think these are the broad steps. But I would like to come into practical realities. This was the theoretical part of it. And in the practical realities, I would obviously confine myself to the earthquake that we have suffered in Pakistan of a massive scale. Massive to the extent we've had 73, this involves about 28,000 square kilometers area. And I believe if one was to compare this to Switzerland, I think it comes to 2/3 or 3/4 of Switzerland, the whole country. And it involved, we've suffered casualties of about 73,000. There are about 3.5 million people affected. 400 to 500,000 houses have been destroyed. Education and medical centers or institutions have collapsed. Government institutions have also collapsed. This is the challenge that we face to rebuild. And I said that to convert this challenge into an opportunity. I would like to now confine myself what we did and what I did, based on the theory that I just explained. First of all, the leader has to take stock and assess the situation. Now, but within this, one element that is essential, the leader must act immediately for the sake of, to show solidarity with the people, to infuse confidence and hope in the people. It may be just a flag showing. It may merely be optics. But I think it is extremely important that the leader not sit back while he's assessing and evaluating the situation. He must reach out to the people immediately. And I personally did that I immediately on the next day, I came to know of the magnitude by the evening when information started coming in. Next day in the morning, I went out and touched down at 6 points all over the area and saw for myself and gave some solace to the people that I'm with them and we will meet the challenge and we will convert their lives to a better life in the future. I think this went a long way in giving hope to the people. Then strategizing or assessing the situation, I visualized 4 stages and I launched a President's Reconstruction Initiative. And in this, we created 2 organizations. The 4 stages involved were rescue, stage number 1, which lasted for a month, relief operation, which is going on. It will continue for another year or two. Then is the main issue of reconstruction of the houses, reconstruction of the medical and education institutions, and reconstruction of government structure. And lastly, it is rehabilitation. I divided this into two and placed them under two organizations. The Federal Relief Commissioner, looking after rescue and relief operations, and an Earthquake Reconstruction and Rehabilitation Authority, looking after reconstruction and rehabilitation, because they are two different aspects which could easily be compartmented under these two organizations. So I set up these two organizations immediately. I selected the right leaders, of course, and placed them in charge of both. The strategy, then strategize. What do we do? How do we meet this challenge? May I say, as far as rescue is concerned, we needed outside assistance because we didn't have the technical know-how, and we asked for it and we got it, I must say. On the relief side, we laid priority to medical assistance, which was immediately required. The people were suffering all kinds of injuries. And following that, or with that simultaneously, food and water and provision of shelter before the onset of winters. Having thought of this, another issue was the inaccessibility of that area. This area was inaccessible, mountainous area, few roads going inside, and out of these few roads, almost no roads going to the people who were living in the mountains. So therefore, think of transportation and communication, how to reach out, make the roads, first of all, and acquire the heli-lift capability and aerial capability to deliver the relief goods to the people in inaccessible areas. One major decision that we took, which contributed in a very major way to alleviate the problems in the people, which we realized after 2 to 3 weeks, was that the area was totally demonetized. People didn't have a single penny in their pockets. People who were well off, their businesses collapsed, and they were paupers with no money in their pockets. People sitting in, being treated in hospitals didn't have money to go back to their place, didn't have fare money. So therefore, we immediately thought, let us monetize the area. And therefore, we decided, give a certain amount of money to the next of kin of anyone who has died, give a certain amount of money who's an amputee, give a certain amount of money to everyone who has lost a house. And we did that through an organization in a very big way, in a fast way. And within a short period of 2 months, we monetized the area to an extent that business activity got generated, economic activity got generated, and people started reconstructing their lost houses themselves to a large extent. So this was a great action we took, which paid a lot of dividends. Then we came on to the strategy for reconstruction. How do we go about reconstructing houses, education and health facilities, and government structure? We saw international practices of tsunami, Katrina, etc., discussed everything. I even discussed these matters with ex-President Clinton. And we saw that as far as housing is concerned, we ought to follow an owner-driven strategy. We could not impose a solution, a house, a modern house. There are a lot of people around the world, like a lady from Sweden is kind enough to send 1,000 wooden cabins. But that is not the house that we would like to impose on a person who has different ways of living in his mountains. So therefore, we thought owner-driven strategy. We give cash to the individual, to every individual, a reasonable amount, a good amount, and let him build his house according to his environment. But also give him guidance how to make the house earthquake-proof. And also, if the person is illiterate, send people, volunteers, and I included the army, involved the army into it. Reach out to the people and guide them how to make that house earthquake-proof in accordance with the written script which was evolved by certain very qualified, eminent architects of Pakistan. In addition to all this, give an incentive, cash incentive to anyone who's following your guidance on making the house earthquake-proof. This was the strategy for, owner-driven strategy for houses. As far as schooling or education facilities and health, we thought we have to follow, we evolved that we will follow a need-based strategy. That is, while these facilities were limited in the past, these were remote areas, let's give them much more than what they had. Let's give them what they ought to be having. So that is where I thought challenge to be converted into an opportunity. And therefore, we went down, we exactly evaluated what is required in its totality, primary, secondary, middle and secondary schools and colleges and universities, and basic health units, hospitals at the sub-district level, at the district level. On the rehabilitation side, we decided that we ought to move very fast in support of the destitute women especially, and girls, orphan children, and injured, especially disabled amputees. Since there are all kinds of antisocial elements to fend against, we evolved the strategy of the government itself, taking upon itself to look after destitutes, orphans, and these disabled. We decided not to hand over anybody, even if anyone wants to adopt, because we didn't know the credentials of anybody who was adopting any child. So the government has, as a strategy, we've taken over responsibility of all the destitute women and orphans, especially. So that was the overall strategy that we evolved. We also ensured transparency and accountability in that we have created a website, and all this data on district basis, sub-district, village basis of requirement of each, accommodation, schooling, education, and health is on that. And anyone who wants to donate to it, sponsoring or donation of any facility, the person's name or the organization's name comes against exactly where whatever one is donating is located. And if the person individual wants to go and see, he could see it on ground. That is the kind of transparency and accountability that we are going for. Anyone sitting anywhere in the world can go on reach out into the website and see for himself. Now, all this was good, but one of the major constraints on Pakistan was generation of resources. We don't have the resources, we didn't have the resources to meet this challenge. So therefore, I thought I must call the World Donors Conference. And I can proudly say, and with a lot of gratitude, that 85 countries were represented in that donors conference. And the total assessment of the damage, scale of damage, assessment with a consensus by the United Nations organizations, the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and the government of Pakistan. Each one of them, consensus was the losses to the tune of $5.2 billion. And may I express my gratitude to the entire world community for coming forward and pledging $6.2 billion. Therefore, the resources did get generated. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we strategized, we created organizations, we assessed the problem, we created organizations, we strategized, we generated the resources, and now we have to implement. We have already successfully implemented the relief part. We need to successfully implement the reconstruction and rehabilitation. And this I will keep monitoring as the last part of my responsibility as a leader. I must know that the effects that we have desired keep getting created at various times and at various places. And I will keep monitoring that and going down myself to make sure that this is being done. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the very patient hearing.
Mr. President, we will have another opportunity to listen to you this afternoon, but I would like to use this occasion to express to you our admiration for having handled such a situation in such a distinctive and such a forceful way. We cannot really imagine what it means to be hit by such a catastrophe. So I think we are full of admiration for the strategies which you have to put in place. We want to commend you on those, and we also, I think,